Okay, we're all set. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bowie Planning Advisory Board meeting this evening. We will have one announcement, quick announcement, and that is that docket number 20-05, which was a non-conforming use for the towing company down on 10th Street in Old Town Bowie. That hearing has been postponed, and we will send out a notification as soon as we get a date for rescheduling. So if anyone has signed on specifically just to hear that case, you'll have to continue to check your emails, and we'll send out a notification of the date that it will be rescheduled on. In the meantime, you're more than welcome to stay with us this evening, as we will be hearing about a development that is not in the city of Bowie, but it is close to the Bowie planning area, and that is the National Capital Business Park that's being developed off of Leeland Road and close to the intersection of Robert Crane Highway at 301. So this evening, presenting for the developers of that project. Well, first, let me introduce the planning advisory staff planning board advisory staff that we have on board tonight. We have Mr. Michael Bird. We have Mr. Carl Shuttler, Ms. Deidre Trass, and we have, where did he go? Mr. James Galato with us this evening. And also the city planner is Joe Minard. So having made those introductions, I'm going to turn it over to, I guess it's Mr. Tony Perez from LA Consulting, and he will introduce his team, the team that is working on the National Capital Business Park. So Mr. Perez.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Rogers, for that introduction, and thank you for having us tonight. I also want to thank Mr. Minor for working with me to coordinate this meeting. We came before you a few months back in discussion of a project called Liberty Business Park. That name is now changed to National Capital Business Park. And I just want to take a time to not only thank you, but also introduce our team. Some of them that I'll mention their names are not with us this evening, but we do have a strong majority of the team here. So we are led by the team of Mannequin, CEO Richard Alter, and John Graham, who's the managing director of Mannequin, who's not on the call tonight, but we do have COO of Mannequin, Cole Schnorf, who's been working closely with the entire team, obviously, on this project. And then we also have our legal team with us, with Mr. Arthur Horn and Mr. Robert Antonetti from Shipley and Horn. And everyone knows that wonderful firm here in the county. They do a great job in the metropolitan area. We also have on our team, the N.A. Michaels team, we have Jeff Ludwig with us this evening, but we also continue to have Sally Ludwig, and we also have Kahu Ludwig, who's a part of the N.A. Michael team as well. And we obviously know the N.A. Michael team, who's done great projects around the Bowie area and throughout the county and other places. Part of our community outreach team is the team of G.S. Proctor. Mr. Trey Proctor is with us tonight, but we also have Mr. Steve Proctor, who's not with us tonight, and you know the wonderful things they do throughout the area. And I am also partnering with them from LA Perez Consulting, and Ms. Teresa Hessler couldn't be with us this evening, but I am on and joining the team. So we will be doing the community outreach. Obviously, as I said, I've been reach out to the Bowie area, and Mr. Proctor, Trey Proctor, and Steve Proctor are reaching out to other parts of the area as well. So as we move forward, we just want to thank you again for giving us the opportunity to come back before you and do a brief presentation on where we are in the process with our project. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Ludwig from there, and if you have us proceed, Mr. Rogers. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tony. I'm going to share the screen real quick. Oops. Taking it back to the first page. My name is Jeff Ludwig. I'm with NAI Michael, and thank you for joining us this evening. We'll give you a brief update. I'll be your moderator. And in a few minutes, we'll also hear from Cole Schnorf, Chief Operating Officer for Mannequin, and from Robert Antonetti from Shipley and Horn on the entitlement process. Our team has been really hard at work since the last time we spoke, and we've accomplished a great deal in a short period of time, as you'll hear a little later. To begin with, we're pleased to announce that on December 18th, the Mannequin and Turnbridge Equities team closed on the acquisition of the former Willowbrook residential community. For those of you that may recall, that was a fully approved 1,000+ unit residential community that had originally been conceived to be phase 2 of Collington. The project went through the zoning text amendment process, and we've been working forward to build the National Capital Business Park. You may recall that when we spoke last time, the National Capital Business Park, which is this area right here, consists of approximately 442 acres of land, and we'll be preserving about 190 acres of that land will be kept in permanent preservation, tree conservation, and parkland. The National Capital Business Park, this is a computer image of what the park will look like laid out. We currently have 13 building sites, from buildings as small as 50,000 feet up to 1 million square feet. And it's designed as a modern 21st century logistics center. We're also pleased to share that there's been tremendous interest in the park. Right now, we have prospects or suspects for all but 2 of the lots in the park. And for several of the lots, we have several different offers that have come in. What makes National Capital Business Park a little different than some of the other big parks you see around the country is that it's not owned by some corporate giant. In fact, the Mannequin Turnbridge team made a decision early on to extend the opportunity for businesses located in Prince George's County and from outside of the county as well, companies that own their own business and wanted to own their own building. And so they have made it available. And I'm pleased to report that we're working with a number of companies right now, either on letters of intent or design phase for many of the lots in the park. When we did the original economic study, it suggested that National Capital Business Park would create about somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 new jobs. And based on the numbers that we're seeing, that's holding out to be true. So we're pretty excited about that. We're also pleased to announce that we've been very successful in engaging local Prince George's and minority businesses in the development of this project. Everything from website developers to public relations, legal, engineering, community outreach, brokerage services, all Prince George's County companies. So we're very pleased that we're able to expand and provide opportunity for the Prince George's County community. I would like now to present Cole Schnorf or introduce you to Cole Schnorf and ask him to provide you with an update on where they're at with the development of the project. Cole? Cole, I think you're on mute, buddy.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you all for allowing us the time tonight to present you and update you on the progress we've made at National Capital Business Park since we spoke to you probably 6 months ago. We've established a good working relationship with the county. We've got mega project status, so we've been meeting bi-weekly with the DPI team, and that's helped in the progress that we've made. Rob Antonetti will describe where we stand on our entitlements in a few minutes, but I wanted to talk to you about our construction schedule. So if you could advance the slide, Jeff. We are hoping to begin clearing operations in April of this year, so just a couple months from now, and then follow that with grading this summer. And if all goes as planned, we would start infrastructure and construction and possibly our first buildings by the fall of this year. And we hope to have our first tenants moved into National Capital Business Park by the fall of 2022. One of the things we promised to the community is that we would limit or not have any traffic onto Leeland Road. So I just want to show you a map to explain a few features here. The green line in the lower left, somebody may need to mute their phone. There we go. Thank you. In the lower left is a temporary construction access. So while we won't have any permanent access onto Leeland Road, we will have that as our construction entrance for probably a period of about 18 months while we're constructing what will become our main entrance into the park, which is the extension of Queens Court. Queens Court has one stream crossing, so it'll take us a few months to construct that before we can utilize that for our construction access. And shown in red as well, we have an extension of Prince George's Boulevard that is a master plan road that we're hoping to remove from the master plan. So that's just shown there as, because it's planned, but we do not have any plans to ever build that road. Some other offsite improvements that we'll be making, however, include a community park that's on the left side of our project. It'll be accessed off Leeland Road, and we're still working with Park and Planning on exactly what the details of that park will be. And then along Route 301, we'll be constructing a signalized intersection where Queens Court currently is a right in, right out from southbound 301. You may notice if you drive by there or even on an aerial view that there's no median, but there are a lot of tire tracks crossing the median there. So by constructing a signalized full movement intersection, we'll be removing that safety hazard of vehicles that cross there that shouldn't, while also creating a more prominent and better traffic flow into our park. Additionally, we'll be constructing a third northbound lane on the Route 301 from Queens Court up to Trade Zone. And most of this construction should occur in probably 2022 and 2023. It's now my pleasure to introduce Rob Antonetti, who will give you an update on where we stand with our entitlements. Rob?
Thank you, Cole. Appreciate everybody's availability tonight, and it's a pleasure to be before you again. So, as mentioned already, this property is zoned to allow for employment type uses pursuant to a text amendment known as CB 22-2020. The property was formerly known as Willowbrook, as Jeff Ludwig mentioned. It was approved as recently as 2019. It had a basic plan approved for up to 1,139 residential units, and that was a maximum yield. Today, we're seeking to develop an employment park, pretty much in the concept that you'd seen on the slideshow tonight, and delete all residential uses that were approved. So our entitlements are going to completely replace the entitlements, the residential entitlements that were in place prior to the acquisition of this property. It is zoned RS. Because of that, our county zoning ordinance does require us numerous entitlement applications, including an amendment of the basic plan, amendment of the approved comprehensive design plan, a specific design plan or multiple specific design plans, and a preliminary plan of subdivision. Currently, we are pursuing all of these entitlements. We do have a basic plan that has been accepted. The planning board is getting prepared to make a recommendation on that plan. There will also be a zoning hearing examiner case for that as well. There also is a pending comprehensive design plan amendment, which will hopefully be heard by the planning board in April. We have a pending preliminary plan of subdivision, which is in the acceptance process with Park and Planning. And we also are initiating the specific design plan application process as well, and hope to have an application accepted in the near future. One thing that you may have recalled if were familiar with the Willowbrook project is that the project is quite interesting, as even when it was a residential offering, is that it was nearly completely surrounded by woodlands. And even though, so the development was nestled in between basically a green buffer that would wrap the project. And that was important for aesthetics. That was important for buffering, either as a residential use and today as a potential employment use. And that will remain. We're essentially developing in the same envelope that the Willowbrook residential project was proposing at that time. Additionally, I think it was mentioned here that under our zoning regulations, we have to send our traffic through an adjacent employment park. For our purposes, that's the Collington Center. So our transportation network routes our vehicles through the Collington Center, and will also lead to the improvements to US 301, including the main access point, which is Queens Court, which will become a full signalized intersection upon completion or implementation of this project. Beyond that, this is not, in terms of impacts and the entitlements, they're going to evaluate things as public facilities, which are always of interest to the community. And this is no exception. Given that it is no longer residential, but commercial, employment-based, there won't be any vehicle trips directly on the Leeland Road. As mentioned, all our trips are going to go through the Collington Center. There will be no school students generated from this directly. So the impacts to schools would not exist as it would in a residential offering. And the environmental impacts, as I mentioned, we are looking to develop within the same environmental envelope, and and we will avoid essentially the sensitive environmental features on this site to essentially swap one use type for another use type, which this other use type will generate the jobs that Mr. Ludwig mentioned, and will also have a significant impact on the commercial tax base for the county. So we're very excited about being able to proceed in all these various entitlements. You may have already seen or will see various hearing signs if you travel Leeland Road over the next coming months. So that's us, and we're in the entitlement stage, and we're hopeful to begin some of the activities on the timeline that Cole presented to you tonight. So again, thank you for your time, and I believe that's all I have. So I'll turn it back to Jeff.
It's funny. Thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate it. And thank you, Terry, for the chance to provide an update. Right now, we would love to open the floor to any questions. We've got Cole and Robert and Arthur here. Anyone have any questions for us?
So, Mr. Ludwig, I thought I heard you said they would own their own building. Is that correct? The tenants are going to own their own building?
Well, yeah, they would. Yeah, there will be an opportunity to lease. So there could be a tenant landlord relationship. 3 of the buildings, Mannequin is doing spec for lease, but the rest of the buildings that we're working with right now are for company owners who own their own business, but also want to own their own building. And that's rare in today's market,
Yeah, exactly. I wrote that down, and I wrote a big question mark next to it. I'm like, did I hear him correctly? Because usually, at that point, folks would just be looking to lease it out. Thank you for clearing that up.
You're welcome. And we do have a 50,000-foot building in the park right now that doesn't have anyone associated with it. The individual we worked with didn't feel that they could put the money together to do the deal. But if the city of Bowie, or if any of your friends, neighbors, or relatives might know of a local business that would love to own their own building and grow their wealth, we've got a 50,000-foot building, and we have a couple of bigger ones too that are still available.
Excellent. Thanks for the info.
Sure.
Mr. Ludwig, I was interested to see the buffer between the park and the residential area near it.
Sure. You want to share the screen again? I've got an image up that I think. So this image here, this is the park area. And as Robert mentioned, this was the area that had already been approved to be cleared for homes. This is a little park area right here. So there's a huge buffer between the park. You know, I want to say it's maybe a quarter of a mile, maybe a little less, but it's a good fair distance of buffering. And there's some trails in through here also.
Okay. Is it going to be connected to that residential community? I think it was a little further south.
Let's see. So over here,
Yeah, I'm sorry, not south. Is that it, south?
oh no, South Lake is right here. And I'm not sure, Cole, I don't know what your conversations have been with park and planning, but Cole, you may be able to, I know you've been talking about how they tie everything in, or if they're, what they want to do. I think they're still up in the air, right?
Yeah, so we're going to be, in addition to constructing the park, we'll be putting and making improvements to Leeland Road. We'll be constructing a 10-foot hiker biker trail on the north side paralleling Leeland Road. That trail will also go up through the park, the community park, and then continuing up through our property to the northern property line, right about where that red arrow comes in from the NCBP label. And then Park and Planning doesn't have the plans yet exactly how it'll tie into the Collington Branch Trail. So that's where we'll construct it to the edge of our property. There was talk when we met with the Oak Creek community a couple of weeks ago of maybe having a spur into the Oak Creek community there to the north, but that's not, you know, that'll be Park and Planning doing that at some later time and then connecting it to the Collington Branch Trail. But there's no plans to connect it to Liberty Sports Park at this time.
Okay, no, I think I was looking at Beech Tree, if you all were going to be connected to the Beech Tree community.
Oh, to Beach Street down here.
Yeah.
Well, we will be constructing the 10-foot wide trail parallel to Leeland Road to the edge of our property. I'm not sure if there's a plan by Park and Planning or Beech Tree to tie it into the Beech Tree community or not. It'll be very close to them, so it wouldn't be hard. Or they could, you know, come out onto Leeland Road and go up Leeland Road to where our trail ends at the edge of our property.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But the one thing I would say, and I probably didn't mention enough, this image really does give one an idea of how much area is being preserved.
Yeah, Jeff, if I might add, there's also the CSX railroad line that runs to the west side of the property. So I mean, that is a man-made condition, but that's an existing condition that actually separates, you know, uses, particularly to the west, Oak Creek, and any, you know, existing or future uses as well. So it actually does serve as a pretty additional buffer in addition to the trees that are out there.
Good evening. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, this is Mike Bird. Hey, just a quick question. What facilities are present on the property now? What structures are present, and then what structures will be brand new construction?
Right now, it's trees. There are no structures. The old original Leeland Road runs through the middle of it, but that's the only. There's nothing else there. It's all trees.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess I got a little confused. The old Safeway distribution center.
Right here.
Okay, all right, got it.
We've got great news. Are you all familiar with what's going on with this distribution center?
No, not at all. And
well, we've got great news for you. I think for the county, great news for the county. So Safeway moved. I want to say they planned to be out in August. They got all the way out in October, I think. They took 550 or 600 jobs with them. Target, the owners of Safeway put it on the market for sale, and Target bought it. So Target is now opening. This is going to be a distribution center for Target. And so this building up here is a refrigerated building. So for the grocery store products, and this building is the dry goods building. And then there's a couple of other buildings and office and maintenance facilities up here. So yes, so that's all going to be occupied, and all those new jobs are coming right back to the county.
That's outstanding.
Yes.
Switching back to your property, you mentioned a 1 million square foot building. What do you envision housing in that particular location?
A distribution center. Believe it or not, if you think of any company that's out there right now, whether it's companies that I never would have thought of, like Ace Hardware and Nordstrom. I mean, Nordstrom already has 400,000 or 500,000 feet right here in the park. But there's a whole host of companies that they're doing online purchases of last mile type logistics to provide service to the Washington, D.C. metro area. And so Amazon is right here. They bought this building and they've been renovating it. But looking for a large distribution user, like I said, most grocery stores, most chains, most retail stores that are still operating all have million-foot distribution centers where they bring the materials in, and then the delivery people take it back out and deliver it to the surrounding communities.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Terry, if there's
Yeah, Jeff, I've got a quick question for you.
sure.
What is the proximity of National Capital Business Park to the Bowie city limits?
Couple miles, mile and a half. Robert, you know the correct answer to that?
Robert, you just muted yourself.
I believe a portion of the site is within a mile, since South Lake has been annexed into the city. So the northern portion of the site, I believe, is within a mile, or perhaps even a half a mile at that point. But it's still outside the municipal limits, but it has gotten closer due to the changes with South Lake coming into the city.
Right, that was the question. So has there been any discussion about annexing into the city of Bowie?
It had been raised before. The issue is, well, there's many issues to annexation. It's a deliberate process that has a lot of analysis points, but one of the main requirements is that there's a contiguous connection to a municipal boundary. And there isn't at this point. There's the entire Collington Center, which is the trade zone labeled here, Collington Trade Zone, which is kind of an intervening property, which is outside of the city. So it currently is not contiguous to a municipal buffer, so our boundary. So through its physical limitations, it's not eligible for it.
Understood. But we're getting, like, as I looked at the map there, the proximity to South Lake, we're getting closer. So, so maybe one day.
Perhaps.
So are there any other questions from the board?
I just have one more. Is the Queen's Court, is that going to be enough for the ingress and egress of 3,000 to 4,000 employees?
Yes.
Yeah, so the employees can all come out to Queens Court, but once they get to Prince George's Boulevard, they can continue out to Route 301, or they could turn onto Prince George's Boulevard and go up to Trade Zone. But we did our traffic study based on the assumption that I think 90% of the traffic would continue out to Route 301, and it passed. There were no problems with the failing intersections or anything.
And if I'm correct, Cole, $7 or $8 million worth of improvements to 301 is part of this.
Yes, that's correct. Between the intersection and the lighted intersection and the northbound lane, that's right.
And I might also add that the workers and the employees in the center are typically on shifts. So it's not as if the entirety of the workforce will be coming in and out at the same time. There's more of a blend throughout the day based on shift times as well, which helps dissipate traffic through the new Queens Court intersection, which will be built, as well as I guess the existing access the Collington has at Trade Zone.
Okay. That intersection at Queens Court, is that going to, it's going to be signalized. So will there be a crossover to northbound 301?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a complete crossover, not like we have down at Amber Ridge.
No, it would be a full movement intersection, allowing northbound and southbound movements.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
In relationship to your construction timeline, when do you think that intersection will be completed? Will that be near the beginning of your construction timeline, middle, or near to the end of your construction timeline?
Well, the construction timeline for the infrastructure is only 1 year, but the construction timeline for all the buildings within the park is probably going to be, 3 or 4 years, depending on, the level of interest. But we want to construct that intersection as early in the process as we can, because that provides the main access into the park. So in addition to improving circulation for everybody, it's sort of a marketing feature for us to have that intersection there. So we plan to do it as early as we can.
Oh, wonderful. That sounds good. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing no other questions, then Tony and Jeff and Cole and team, we want to thank you for bringing this information to us. Although we're not, it's not going to, the project is not within the city limits of Bowie. We will, of course, be impacted by it in terms of traffic, and hopefully, it'll provide jobs to some of the folks who live here in Bowie. So I think that everything that I've seen, I see it as being a welcome addition to the general area of Bowie and in our planning area. So very professionally done presentation. It's moving right along. And as far as I can tell, we're pretty happy to have you guys.
Yeah, I would like to piggyback on that comment as well. Yeah, so Mr. Perez and definitely Mr. Proctor, at least Proctor Senior, I know you gents are very, very well in tune as far as lobbying the community with a potential development project. So understandably that right now your proposed construction site is a little south of the Bowie line, but we're looking at Bowie District 4, which I'm sure, Mr. Perez, I recognize you in many a day. I'm sure you understand exactly who we're dealing with. So
I do.
I'm very, very enthusiastic about this project, and I wish you the best of luck, because definitely I think it is a need that we have within this region. So that's why some of the questions I was, asking about the 1 million square foot property. But yeah, definitely for sure, as far as a new distribution center. The only problem is that, the folks of Bowie tend to be a little entrenched in their own little kind of fiefdom, so to speak. So I would urge you gentlemen to really tune up your marketing campaigns. The sooner the better. Obviously, I know everything has a cost, but obviously work that into your budget. But definitely reach out to those folks from District 4 and into District 3. I myself, I live in District 3. I use Leeland Road all the time to shoot down from the center of Bowie out to 301 South. So I haven't heard too much about this particular property. So that's another reason why I just bring this point up. And it just could be me, and given this COVID environment, a lot of us are kind of cornholed into our own homes. But definitely please put towards some sort of emphasis. I know Mr. Rogers is the chair of a consortium of individuals and citizens down there in the southern portion of Bowie, who definitely want to be not only want to be involved and informed, but also want to hold developers to account. And I think this would just make the whole transition a lot smoother for you and your team. All right. Thank you very much.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, if I can.
Go right ahead, Mr. Galato.
Okay, for those of you who are enthralled about this, and it does provide jobs and other things, I think everybody should take a look at Route 301 on the Eastern Shore from Maryland through Delaware. That area, like the Bowie area, was very rural, plenty of homes, lots of trees. These developments, like this distribution center and everything else that's been going on in Maryland, has already occurred along Route 301, going from Maryland through Delaware, all the way up, and with the exact same kind of development and construction that's going on in Bowie over the past few years. And if you look at the distribution centers, the shopping centers, the malls, the truck stops. That is that is what Bowie is going to look like in 5 years. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying it's getting that way. And if you really want to look at what's happening now, go and take a nice ride through there.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Gallardo, for that input.
Mhm.
All right, no other comments, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. And we look forward to your next update. I guess that'll be about 6 months because we seem to be on the 6-month schedule. And we wish you the best of luck and hope that things continue to progress along smoothly. And I will be trying to set up a meeting with the Community Association of South Bowie. It's been a while since we've had a meeting in general, but once we do get back to meeting, we'll make sure to get you on our schedule.
Thank you for that, Mr.
Joe,
Rogers.
do you have any? Okay, Joe, do you have any closing remarks?
No, sir.
Okay, well, with that, then, hope everyone has a pleasant evening and take care and thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you for all your
Stay
comments.
safe.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Have a good evening.
Thanks.